Back in 2008, I was taking a long trip through the USA, hitchhiking most of the way to save on travel expenses. At the time, I was in Connecticut and trying to get from New Haven to Hartford. This was actually near the end of my journey, as I'd started on the West Coast and had only had positive experiences the entire way. Friendly strangers offering me rides, kind locals offering me couches to sleep on, the whole shebang. Connecticut, unfortunately, is where my trip turned a little sour, and I finally came to realize the dangers of hitchhiking. Some guy I had just met offered me a ride up to Hartford. Said he was headed there himself, and wouldn't mind a little company on the journey. Sounded good to me. Nothing about him seemed suspicious or anything, just a normal-looking dude. He was around 40 years old, muscular, like an outdoorsy type of guy. Had a picture of his family on the dashboard, a crucifix around his neck, and spoke real polite and friendly. We started rolling on down the road, and he gets to talking with me. Conversation was light-hearted and jovial, and we spent a lot of the time sitting back and listening to country music on the radio. I asked him what he had been up to that day before he picked me up. He told me nothing major, just saying goodbye to a few friends he had been visiting in the area. Somewhere between New Haven and Meriden, this guy's demeanor suddenly changed. His face went from smiley to serious. The whole atmosphere in the vehicle became darker. I tried talking to him, but he stopped answering me. After about 10 minutes of the silent treatment, he finally spoke. "You know," he said, "when you asked me what I'd been up to all day, I told you I was saying goodbye to friends." Yeah, I replied, not really sure what he was getting at. "I ain't got no friends in New Haven." "Oh," I said, a little unsure of how to feel. There was a long pause as I waited for him to tell me the punchline to this joke or whatever he was building up to. He didn't say anything. I waited a good 30 seconds before asking, "So, what have you been doing all day then?" He turned off onto some thin, country road with trees lining either side. This definitely didn't feel right. The guy sniffed, and, with a blank expression, simply replied, "Digging a hole." My heart was pounding fast now, and became faster as we drove further down the lonely road, the surrounding trees becoming more dense. In that moment, I questioned whether jumping out of the car would have been an overreaction. I decided it wasn't. I unbuckled my seatbelt as the guy began gaining speed, opened the door, and flung myself out of the vehicle. I didn't know what this guy had planned for me, but I didn't want to be a part of it. I rolled on the ground, scraped but mostly uninjured. The guy's car came to a complete standstill up ahead of me, and the red reverse lights came on. He started flooring it in reverse, coming back to get me. I darted down the road, back the way we came, all the while with this guy catching back up to me. I had no choice now. I ran into the woods on my right side, where his car could no longer pursue me. I rushed through the foliage and heard the guy slam his car door, hollering about how I was a stupid so-and-so and how I wasn't going to get away. From the sounds of it, he was chasing behind me, though I didn't dare to turn back and look. I refused to stop moving. Adrenaline is a hell of a thing, and it carried me far enough and fast enough for that guy to lose track of me. When I finally felt like I had lost him, I found a spot to lay low and remained hidden in those woods for a good hour or so. I eventually made it back to the main road, found help, and called the police. I gave them a full description of the guy and his vehicle, and, being the sweethearts they were, they gave me a ride to the nearest town. My trip across the USA taught me many things, mainly that most people are inherently good, but I have no doubt I encountered evil that day. The way he was able to shift gears so quickly from friendly to stone cold, that's the part that keeps me up at night.